Hi. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. All right. So we're now, so I skipped all of that. Okay. Sorry, I just had an idea. I want to see if I can do it. Okay. So we were talking about how how it is that, you know, there's this, let's start again. Hi, everybody. I'm starting again. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to class 4 of ACI 17. Okay. And in the last class, we were discussing quite extensively, like, why would you even consider taking vows? Like, what is the point of taking a vow? What is the point of making a commitment? And I think it's a really good question because a lot of people get a little, I don't know, I wouldn't say frustrated, but a little like worried about, well, I'm taking a vow. Is this going to be forever? Like, what does forever mean? Like, you know, and if you've ever done a vow like got married, I'm sure there's this moment of, I don't know this, but I can imagine this a moment of commitment, right? Where you're like, I am committing to you for a certain period of time, the rest of my life, and it's a big commitment to make. And I've seen a lot of couples go through the transition where they were together for many, many years, right? And then all of a sudden they're like, they've gone through this ceremony and something changes, right? Something changes completely about the relationship because you made this commitment. And that's a commitment like for better or for worse, sickness and in health, right? And so then the question with taking like a bodhisattva vow, like, is it kind of a similar thing? And in some ways it is. And it's actually more, I would say more, um, maybe more of a commitment. Maybe. I don't know. We can debate it at some point. There's similarities. Let's just call it a similarity. And taking this and then committing yourself to a bodhisattva's way of life, to these 64 particular seeds, these 64 ways of responding to the world. Like I like to think of them in that way as a response. Like, yes, I like to make plans of the things I'm going to do and how I'm going to act when certain things arise. And that's all wonderful. And you should do that. But there's also, for me, the vows are more about responding. Like when something happens, how do I respond? What is the next best seed to plant? What should I do? Not what I want to do or what I feel like I should do. You know, like one of my good friends and I like, we have this thing that like we look at each other, like when something happens and we know exactly what the other person's thinking. And we're like, yeah, we know we shouldn't say that thing, but we're thinking it in our mind. Right. And then they're just like, ah. And then there's a kind of like, you know, closeness that you feel around that. But the fact that even that we're both thinking the thing that we shouldn't do, and then don't do it, I think is more powerful than just like being a goody two shoes when you come out of the gate. There's an expression in Tibetan. Does anybody know it for $100? That relates to this specifically. I've taught it just once, and I'm actually looking it up right now to make sure I get it correctly. Correct. Anybody know? I'll give you a hint. It has to do with a moon. The moon. Nope. All right. Cancel the bet. Dawa Tring Jawa. Dawa Tring Jawa. Dawa is moon. Tring is cloud. Trawa is free, to be free from. Okay. And the idea behind this is that, and I remember when my teacher taught me this, we were in Kyoto, we were walking out of a class, it was late at night, and we were looking up at the sky, and there was beautiful clouds, and the moon was behind the clouds. And then we watched the clouds move, and then as they moved, revealed the moon, like revealed the moonlight. Right. And then my teacher said, Dawa Trink Jawa. And I was like, and I'm like translating the words. I'm like, he says this so fast. And of course, when your teacher says something, like your mind goes entirely blank. You know, I know the words. Dawa is moon, Tring is moon, Tralwa is free from, like freeing the clouds from the moon gets freed from the clouds, And basically what it means is that it's much more powerful karma to remove the dirt from the dirty window than it is just to have a clean window. Like to do the work to reveal the moonlight is so much more powerful than already just having like the moon on a clear starry night. Right? There's some amazing karma that comes with that, or powerful, it comes with it. And then the moon reflecting on the water also is a huge metaphor for, you know, understanding dependence and understanding how seeds are ripening and what you're seeing in your world. So if you can think about like when something is happening and you remove the cloud that's around it and you recognize that you're just watching a reflection of your previous deeds. And then you're like, well, what should I do? I don't know what to do. Maybe one of these 64. Right? Even just taking that pause to be like, oh, this is just a reflection of the moon in the water right now. I've just removed the cloud around it and I can see that it's a reflection. And, you know, I may not be seeing it clearly, but I'm seeing that it's a reflection. You know, then you can choose which, which vow, like which commitment, which see, don't even think of it as a vow. Like what you're making a commitment to is that you're making a commitment to understand where everything is coming from, which is a reflection of how you treated others in the past. That's all that it is. That's all that it is. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, Tim. That's all that it is, you know. But that's what we do is we habituate ourselves over and over and over again to that. What do you do next? What do you do next? What do you do next? Don't worry about why the cloud is there. Why is the cloud there? Why is the smoke there? Why can't I see the moon? Great. Spend years in therapy. Good. Or you can just say, yeah, that happened. That created that. A created more of A. B created more of B. Okay. Wallowing in the bad seeds that you created years ago isn't going to help you plant better seeds today. Good luck talking to yourself wallowing when you're worried about it, you know. That's a total different, and that's also a different, that's a seed too. If your self wallowing won't allow you to see that, that's also a seed coming out as well. And then maybe you can just be like, well, that's coming from a previous seed. I can't stop it. All right, what do I do? Just do your best. You know, we can't always stop what's come out of the ground. But can you free the moon from the cloud? Which is a literal translation. We can probably find a much more poetic way of saying it. So just so you can put your mind at ease, and what I said in last class, which is what I want to go a little bit deeper in this class, is that of the 64, there are 18 key seeds, key vows, right? And if you break those, they say that you're going to be blocking yourself from seeing emptiness in this lifetime. Excuse me. You know, and it seems a little scary. It seems a little like, oh shit, kind of thing. But what it does is it comes with 4 caveats, 4, we call them chains, like 4 motivations, 4 behaviors that have to be attached to that deed in order for you to fully, like, you know, like, don't think of a vow as breaking a vow. Think of it as fully planting a seed. You're fully planting a seed that's going to grow into more ignorance, a seed that's going to grow into more of the same. And that's really the point. So here are the 4. All right. These 4 things have to be present. Number 1, that you will do it again. You do something and you're willing to do it again. All right. So let's take, for example, one of the 18 root vows. Let's say the root downfall of teaching emptiness to a person who's not yet ready. Okay. Which has a lot of meaning to it. It's not just it's not just that they're not ready, but there's certain results that you need to study and you have to know. It's not just about teaching. But you're willing to do it again. All right. That's the first thing. You're willing to teach emptiness to someone who's unprepared and have all the necessary results happen when you do it. The number 2 is, these are 2 pictures for shame and consideration, meaning you have no shame in yourself for doing it. You're not worried about the results for yourself, and you're not worried about what other people will think. Number 3, you have to have enjoyed it. Like, she's enjoying her orange smoothie, right? You have to have enjoyed doing the deed. And number 4 is you have to think it was wrong. Excuse me. You have to think that it wasn't wrong. Okay. So when you do one of those 18, well, technically 16 of them, because 2 of them can be done without the 4 chains. Can you guys hear my cat? Yeah, She's excited about the four chains. She, I don't know. There's something that's really endearing about a cat eating breakfast and then going to the bathroom and being so excited about how good they feel and that they run around the house and like tear shit up. Right? It's like, I'm happy now. I went to the bathroom. Like, I'm so thrilled. There's probably some message in it. But here are the four. The four are like that you would do it again. You don't worry about the results for yourself or you're worried about how other people will think of you. You enjoyed doing it. And then fourth, you didn't think it was wrong at all. So if you really think of these four things, you kind of have to be a rather evil person. You kind of have to be like kind of a psychopath, frankly. I'm going to say it. Like to have all of these really present and strongly and firmly. You know, and would say that most of us, sure, we might do some of these things in small ways, but really to like embody all four of those, it's really very, very difficult. It's extremely difficult. You know, I get the question of like, well, what happens if I didn't think it was wrong, but then like 12 years later, I was like, I realized I was wrong. First of all, my first question is, did you take the vow yet? If you did something 12 years ago and you didn't take the vow, then there's no problem. Number two is that you shouldn't take the vows without knowing what you're doing. Okay. Yes, we're going to slip and fall from time to time, but like if you ever have a moment of like, oh shit, this is going to cause me some bad results, or, you know, you're like, that really wasn't that cool, you know, then you're fine. What's the time limit on it? When does it expire? I'll let you know in the sutras. But maybe there's a power to doing something and then recognizing it was wrong later. Because nothing is not changeable. So maybe we can think of it that way. But really, you need to have these four things present. You need to have four things present to be able to actually like break those root vows. So please don't worry. All right. Okay. Now, the thing that I wanted to talk about was what if you took these four things and kind of inverted it a little bit and then did good deeds with the inversion of this? Where, first of all, you would be willing to do a good deed again. That in doing the good deed, you are already considering the result it will have for yourself and then how other people will react. You enjoy doing it. And thirdly, you know it's the right thing to do. You know, what if you took the four chains, turned them into a positive, and then imbued your actions with that? If the four chains are so freaking negative that they can stop you from seeing emptiness directly in this lifetime if you do certain deeds with those motivations present. Then the corollary to it is if you have the positive side of that present while doing good deeds, wouldn't it make sense that that would make those good deeds even more powerful? I would do it again. And dang, I really enjoyed that. I know this is going to be good seeds for me. And honestly, I am worried about how other people will see me. Right. And then you think it's the right thing to do. Now, you can't necessarily know how people are going to react. But when you take into consideration how other people might feel around certain things, it changes your behavior entirely. And because you're considering, while you can't control the reactions, you're considering what the reactions may be. And sometimes you'll take an act knowing that it might cause a little disturbance. But other times, you know, if you know it's the right thing to do and it might cause a disturbance, then you have a moral dilemma. And then you have to decide. And your behavior, your ethics will come down to those kinds of questions. It's not a surprise that the four chains are presented here and that they might be relevant for your future career as a ethical master, meaning ethical, meaning knowing how to plant the best seeds. For example, if you were a monk and you understood Praktimoksha, Bodhisattva, and Diamond Way vows and practices, and you happen to have and understood fully, which you will understand as you get deeper and deeper into it, what a spiritual partner really is and what it's not. You might choose to make, as a monk, you might choose to make your spiritual partner public, also knowing that there might be some criticism you might receive. And thinking about what's the higher seed. When you really think about the things that you're doing, affects other. And sometimes you have to make the choice. If you're willing to take the criticism, knowing that the seed itself was the best thing to do, then you would do that. But sometimes you have to just evaluate what is the best thing to do. Right. And you'll understand more that example I gave, you'll understand that more as we get deeper into like the higher practices. But it's not always, it doesn't always, how do I say this? All three levels of vows work together. They work together in an incredibly subtle way. And you become a master of that. You become a master by screwing up. And hopefully you have a teacher that can point out to you when you've messed up. And I had one time I had years and years ago, this is like maybe 10 years ago, 13 years ago, I can't remember what it was. My partner had a meditation center in Phoenix, and they had a ton of students. They were doing some great things. And we were having a meditation program up here in Sedona. And I thought in my mind, I thought it'd be really cool to have during the break, is to have a little presentation from them about the center that they had in Phoenix. and then what they were doing and all the cool things they were doing with meditation and how they were attracting students and, sort of to see a different perspective, right? To see, and to bring people together, right? I wasn't thinking about it as, this is my partner. I was thinking about this in a way of like, wow, this could really help various communities and bring together and create dialogue. And, I presented this and, I didn't hear back from my teacher for a while, which is typical. You have to wait. There's probably a reason why you have to wait, right? Usually there's something wrong, usually in your thinking, or they want you to figure it out. And my teachers loves making me figure it out because it's more powerful if you figure it out versus have them tell you. In this case, we sat down, we were having a meeting, and he said, look, I need to, he said, my teacher tells me that I need to be more clear about my direction to my students. And I was like, I was like, oh shit, what are you going to tell me? Like I grabbed onto the table in front of me. Right? Scoot this over this way. Centered. And I was like, okay, all right. He's actually telling me something. I want this. I want the feedback. Right. So then he starts explaining. He said, look, it's really cool the idea that you have to bring your partner and to do this. And he said, but you have to look at this from a different perspective. He said, the people coming to this program have been master meditators for 20 years. They don't know who this person is. Right. And on top of it, it'll also look like you're giving them preference because they're your partner. That you're giving your partner special access. Right. And that could create a kind of feeling amongst the community that, oh, you have a certain power or you're a certain director, and then you're just giving your preferential access to people that you like when other people may not get access. And I was like, I was like, yeah, you're right. I hadn't thought about it. I hadn't thought about it that way. I didn't think about how other people would react to it. I just had the intention, and the intention is good, to bring communities together. And then he said, I was like, yeah, I agree with you. I shouldn't do that. And then he throws out the zinger, right? The last zinger. And he said, but if you see her as Vajrayogini or see him as Vajrayogini, then you can't ever go wrong anyway. And I was just like, shit, well, what do I do? And he was like, all right, meeting over. And he took off and he left. Right. And he gave me all the instruction. He gave me everything I needed to evaluate and then for me to make the choice. Because at the end of the day, it's my seeds, my actions, my causes, and my results. Right. If I could hold on to all the views at the same time and manage them, and then be willing to take the criticism from the community because I saw this person in a certain way and held that view and could hold that the entire time, then by all means invite them. Right. But it gave me pause to be like, okay, well, do I have that foundation yet to do that? And I was just like, well, I was it was a problem for me because I had already invited them to do it. Right. So now I have to either uninvite them and deal with the consequences of doing that, or deal with the consequences and all the other things by having them at the event. Both ways it's kind of a diamond deal, you see. And so what do you choose? And this is what happens when you get deeper into this and you start evaluating, well, what is going to be the best thing to do? It gets sticky. It gets a little sticky sometimes. And so oftentimes that's why teachers will not give you the answer because you need to think it out for yourself because you're the one who's planting the seeds in the first place. You're the one who's doing it, not the teacher. The teacher has no power from their own side, right? They're teaching you how to evaluate, and you have to look at those things, and it is going to look complicated because that it, people have their own points of view and they have their own ethical systems that they're coming from. What are you willing to risk? And a lot of times you have to be so subtle with it that, you know, you might have to meditate on it for days or months before you make a decision. So, what did I do? I'm not telling you because it doesn't matter, you know. But it's how to think about it. And I think the four chains are an incredible way to think about, to give us a flavor of how to make a choice. How do you make a choice that's at best ambiguous? They're both good seeds, but which one is going to be the more powerful? But also, you might have to accept certain, what is it going to look like to other people? And that's the foundation of Vinaya, by the way. The foundation of Vinaya is what is it, and meant one of the foundations, let's be clear, is what is it going to look like to other people? Like, what does this action appear to other people? Does it create faith or does it create distance? Does it create inclusion or does it create exclusion? So being able to be aware of all that, that's why you have to do retreat. That's why you have to meditate. That's why you need your 6 times a day book. That's why we have these classes over and over and over again, where we say the same thing every day, just in different words. You can see that one. So we have a new app coming out soon, and it has a lot of cool things like, I can't show you that. It has a vow tracker. It has some meditation timing. It has ways of connecting with each other. It's really, really cool. It has, a way to track everything on your app. It's wonderful, right? I was going to show it to you, but it was showing diamond wave vows and I can't show it to you. Every way that you can trick your mind into doing good things and remembering to do good things. Like, it sends me notifications, right? It gives me a notification. Hey, next vow. And then it prints it out for me. So even if I don't open my book and write it, or I don't write it in the app, at least I'm freaking looking at it. Right? I'm like, oh, I can do that. Right? Like the first vow for today is never intentionally speaking a lie, even as a joke. Right? And So I'm like, oh, okay. That's difficult because I'm sarcastic as hell and I like to make jokes. Right. Well, and I'm like, oh, that's not that. Oftentimes I'll say things. I'm like, oh, no, no, I'm just kidding. I was like, well, shit, I'm breaking that vow. Damn it. Or am I? You have to think. It's better to err on the side of not pushing the envelope. That's another English expression. Because there's this thing that there are times when you're allowed to practice the higher vows and break the lower vows. And what does this mean? You know, the the idea is that describe a kind of person who can break one of the rules of the body and speech out of compassion, you know, in extraordinary circumstances. Okay. And there's a story that goes along with this. There's several stories, but the one that I like is that the Buddha in his past lives, one of his past lives, is on a boat, on a ship with like 500 sailors or something like that. And his practice is so good that he's able to know the intention of what someone else is going to do. And he perceives that one of the sailors is going to kill all the other sailors while they're sleeping. And the Buddha, as a monk, also has a vow of not killing. Right? But as the story goes, because he knew this sailor's intention, he then took action ahead of time to then he ended up killing that sailor first before he killed 500 people. Now, this story sounds like the Buddha killed. But there's some extraordinary things that need to be in place for you to do this. One, the motivation is extremely high. He did not want this person to collect the karma of killing that many people. Secondly, the Buddha had the motivation of, I'm willing to take this karma on for myself. Because it's not that the Buddha gets out of having to see the result of that karma. That's absolutely untrue. So said, I'm willing to take that on for the benefit of this other person. And then thirdly, even more importantly, at that point, he also had the capacity to transfer that sailor's consciousness to another body right afterwards. Okay. By show of hands, how many people on the Zoom call have the capacity to reach into someone's consciousness, mind stream, and transfer it to another body? Well, so if that's the case, then you probably shouldn't go around killing other people just because you know that they're going to kill others first. You see, you can see how quickly people can misunderstand these teachings if you don't have like these deeper motivations in mind and or abilities as well. So for those of us who don't have that ability yet, let's not do it. Right? Let's just not do that for now. Right? Until we're ready, and hopefully our karma is good enough that we won't have to see any of that anyway. right? Why should we wait until, oh, my karma is so good that I could do that? No, just have your karma so good that you won't be in a situation where you have to even decide whether or not you should, stop someone from doing something evil by committing the same evil. That's illogical. Stop the seed to have that in the first place, then you won't even have to be faced with that question. Okay. And so you can see here in this picture, like, if this guy jaywalking, right? The sign says don't walk. Okay. There's a car going across the road. Presumably, there are other cars coming, right? This is an experienced person who lives in New York City, who knows how to cross the street without getting hit. They are extremely skilled. I lived in Philadelphia. I went to New York often. I had this skill. Okay. It was dumb. Okay. It's not safe. I have a friend. I don't know if she's here. Let's see if she's here. I'm not going to call her out, but I wonder if she's here. She's not here. I have a friend. Some of you might know this friend who refuses to cross the street until the little blinking hand turns into a white blinking hand. They will not cross the street. And I'm like, there's no one coming. It's a one-way street. It's a small European street. The cars are like tiny. There's no one there. We can just cross it. Nope. And they just stand there. Like, fine. They're planting different seeds. Right. They're probably teaching us something. But like, this person's such an experienced walker, right? They can walk across a dangerous street. It is dangerous to break vows in the name of other vows without the proper motivation, without the proper skill set, right? Like, this is someone who's practiced for millions of years, has great compassion, who sees that there's no other alternative. Okay. I think that's a beautiful line, that there is no other alternative. And I think that's something for us to keep in mind, is that there's typically always a third way, a pungsumba. There's always a third way. You just have to take the time to find it. I seriously get irritated with the police in the United States, that they had alternatives to, like, if someone was attacking them or dangerous, like, just shoot them in the leg. You don't have to shoot them in the heart. You don't have to kill them. There are alternatives, but they're not trained that way. Right? Train your mind in alternatives. Don't be the police officer who shoots in the heart. Like, find a way to find another alternative. There's always a third way. Unless there absolutely is no other way. I mean, I wonder, like, if the Buddha could have just tied the guy up, right? Like, tie him to the mast of the ship. Like, that's an alternative. Like, there was no reason. I mean, I don't know why the Buddha did it. I don't know why he told the story. I'm not criticizing him, but I'm also like, Buddha, you could have just tied him to the mast of the ship and he wouldn't have killed all the people. I mean, there might have been some other compelling reason. Who knows? But try to find another way. There's always another way. And my teacher's a master at the third way. Learn it. Learn how to do that. So in doing so, there's several, not that any of the vows are more important than others, but there's 4 of them. It's actually 4 parts of one vow that I think are really useful to go over, because this is what we do. This is the 2 husbands in the kitchen. This is how we behave. Number one, it is incredibly common, if not near universal, that when someone yells at us, we yell back, or at least we really want to. Right. You can see, how these things escalate. Every like disagreement with partners, like, you know, customer service. You know, I was in the car last night and I yelled at someone in the other car like they could hear me. And then they yelled back by beeping at me. They were driving slow in the left lane. They were driving extraordinarily slow. And I was trying to be polite. And then they wouldn't move. So I just went around them on the right lane, and I'm like about it. you know, and then they beeped at me back. I was like, "Oh my God, you just yelled at me the way I yelled at you." Okay. Common. This is highly common. Okay. Don't do it, but we do it all the time. When someone gets angry at you and criticizes you, you do the same. You might not yell, but you certainly do it back, right? You get one person gets angry, you get angry back. You know, no problem. Like, I can't believe you're angry at me, so I'm going to be angry with you. Like, this is all normal stuff. All right, next one. When somebody hits you, you hit them back. You defend yourself. I mean, this is pretty logical, right? If someone starts punching me in the face, I'm going to try to stop them from punching me in the face. Right. And then all the other emotions come out, and that's, you know, I've only been hit. I've only been hit once in my life, like real, like punched in the face. I was punched by a drug dealer on my street in Philadelphia. No, excuse me. He wasn't my dealer. Let's be clear. I wasn't buying. He was just a drug dealer on the street, and I was surprised. It was such a shock. He's trying to sell me something. I didn't want it. Um, I've had guns pulled on me. I've been mugged before and things like that. But you know, like when someone hits you, you hit them back, right? Like typically, most of us are not in this situation where people are hitting us, right? But like even like weird things like with my cats, that they lose control from time to time, right? And they get mad, and then they swat or they bite or they, you know, and I've lost control and I've kind of smacked them in the butt or like, things like that. And I always feel terrible when I do it because I'm like, oh, I've just replanted that seed, then I see their reaction to it. Like they're like, wow, I didn't expect that from you. And then there's this like repair that has to happen in the relationship. You know, these kind of things, the reason we're going through this is not just because, they're random actions. Like these are things that destroy relationships. They destroy closeness. They destroy intimacy. Like, yes, we get frustrated with people. Yes, we have difficult times. Yes, it's hard to communicate well. Sometimes it's hard to communicate our feelings. You got big feelings, don't you? Like, this is what you say to like children. Oh, you got some big feelings. Right. But as humans, we have big feelings, like in general, like we have them, right? And we don't know how to navigate them. And so they oftentimes come out as anger, criticism, yelling, worse, hitting, right? They come out that way because we don't know them. We don't know the power of them. We don't understand them. And we're just frustrated. figure out how to let that frustration out, but not at the person. Basically, it's like having the worst wedgie of your life, connecting back to the first class. When you get angry, when you get frustrated, it's like having the worst underwear stuck in your butt, like inside your body. It's like the whole thing is like this, right? It's the worst. It's the worst of the worst. Then how do you recognize that you just have a wedgie? You have to let it go. It's really what it is. But don't let it go on other people. Like, find a way to dissipate the energy. Find a way to understand that it's just a cloud and it's a reflection. I'm trying to make jokes about it, but it's very difficult in the time in that moment. You know. And then lastly, I already said it, but the fourth one is when someone criticizes you, you criticize them back. Right? They point out what a terrible person you are. They tell you that you didn't do a good enough job. They do all those things. And then the first thing you do is you like, well, yeah, I know you are, but what am I? Like you just throw it back in their face. And if you're a Scorpio like me, your tongue can be the most vicious thing ever. You can destroy something in 5 seconds that you built for years with just one wrong criticism. And if you observe people enough, you know what their weakness is. You know what would hurt the most. Don't do it. Right? Don't like at that moment of uncontrolled verbalization can end in a relationship of years because you used it against them. Don't be a scorpion. Don't be a Scorpio, Tim. Stop even like paying attention to people's weaknesses. Right? Don't even think about them. Like focus on their strengths. So what do you do? Like, so we're kind of going through like these are just mainly advices on how to live the vows, like, and how to act in them, how to make choices. What do you do when there's a kind of, you don't understand something, or you're like, that doesn't make sense to me yet, or I'm not sure about that. What do you do with it? Do you immediately burn it? Do you immediately throw it out in the trash? And the answer is no. It's very much like, I don't understand this yet. So just put it up on the shelf. File it away, put it up there, don't reject it yet. And kind of get a sense of like, well, maybe I'll come back to that in the future. Maybe that's something that could be useful later. One of the Diamond Way vows is not to criticize any other traditions, any other religious spiritual traditions. So maybe there's something in it that can be helpful. Maybe learning about it can help you help others in the future. Maybe there's something in there for you. You just don't know it yet. You see? So just put it up on the shelf. This is my favorite thing to do. It's like, all right, I don't agree with that. Let me just put it up there. Maybe I'll put it up on one of the high shelves, or maybe I'll put it like behind 3 layers of books in the back that I'll never look at again. But I just put it up there. You never know. So moving into these secondary offenses, right? So I'm sorry, let me go here first, right? There's 64 total seeds, All right. And you can break them into two groups, which we've already seen, which is 18 and 46. We talked about the 18. We talked about those 18 that you have to do with the 4 chains to be able to make it, to break those vows entirely, to create such a negative deed that you can't repair it in this lifetime. And then the 46 other ones are repairable. You know, but I don't even like to think of it that way, because I think the idea of repairing a vow is kind of like, you shouldn't take comfort in oh, I can do the bad deed because I can take the vows again, or I can do this, I could eventually 4 powers this, and I'll be fine. Like, okay, I guess, but like, taking comfort in the fact that you can retake the vows shouldn't be licensed to do them. It's like, it's kind of a weird thing to do. But you can take comfort, because if you do something that's kind of sideways, by refreshing them, you can kind of purify it. Like, you can purify the deeds, right? Because we're going to make these mistakes all the time, because we're human. Like, the whole point is, here's 64 things, not so hard. Yes, it's the exact opposite of the way you behaved your entire life. Not entirely, because most of us came into this life with, having practiced being a bodhisattva before. So it's not like you're doing it again for the first time, right? We're just mixed up a little bit, right? So there's 46 of these other ones. And so in that 46 other ones, like, what's the primary motivation? All right. So the first motivation is, what breaks them? What causes you to not do them? Let's put it that way. What causes you to not do the 46? It's usually some kind of negative thought, negative emotion. It's like desire or jealousy or anger, right? Any of those things. Hatred, desire to hurt others, right? And it's not like, oh, I desire that they get hurt and get punched in the face. It's like, usually the desire is more like, I really want them to know how bad I felt. Right? That's all it usually is. It's not like I really want to hurt them. I just want them to know how bad they made me feel. So then I start doing things to make them feel that way. Or the other main motivation is just plain old laziness. You forget. You're just tired. You forget. You don't think about it, because it can be exhausting. It can be really exhausting to be a good person. It's so much easier just to be an asshole in the short term. Somebody said to me the other day, they were complaining about somebody else. They said, it's free to be nice. And in my mind, I almost blurted out, yeah, it's free to be an asshole too. Good luck, interpreters. But we just have habits. We have years and years and years and lifetimes of habits of doing things that are, it's just habits, right? And so to take that, to free the moon from the clouds, right? To reveal the moonlight, the moon coming out from behind the clouds. It takes some effort. It takes some time. It takes some study. It takes some strategizing. It takes meditation and care and intention. Because a lot of the things we do are just running in the background. It's habits. The habits are running in the background. So how is it that we can really like start that practice and or continue or re-up or recommit to that practice? Okay. And there's four primary steps to this, as in Galupa systems, there's always four, right? So there's four primary things you can do to get yourself on track, right? And the first thing is what you're doing right now, right? The thing that prevents you from planting these good seeds is just literally you don't know what they are. And so what you need to do is you need to study, right? You need to study them. You need to take the time to study. You just need to go over it over and over and over again. That's why we spend so much time in class. Like changing your behavior is like taming a wild horse. You know, um, one of my when I was in India, they had a big horse stable, and I became friends with a 3-year-old male horse who was just fun and playful and I was like, "Can I ride him?" And they were like, "Oh no." I'm like, "Why not?" And they said he hasn't been trained yet. I'm like, "How bad could it be?" And they said it would be really bad for you because even if we got the saddle on the horse wouldn't walk, would run, would try to throw you off, even if he thought you were his friend, right? You know, and so like you have to like, it's the same with these vows. You have to make them into your friends, but each one of them is focusing on a little tiny wild horse that you have inside of you. Young, exuberant, lots of energy, like a teenager, and has no control of themselves or their hormones. Okay. And so each of the 64 is really about taming 64 hormonal teenagers inside of you who have yet to think clearly for themselves. They think they know what they're doing. They think that they're smart and they think that they know what's best. Hanging out with some teenagers for a while, they are the most unhumble, prideful little beautiful humans, right? Their hormones are running all over the place. Their brain hasn't developed entirely, but they have a little bit of independence and their body's the healthiest it'll ever be in their life. They don't know that yet, of course, right? You just have all those little wild horses running around inside of you. So the first thing you need to do is you need to study. Like tame one of the horses. Just come to class, review them over and over and over again. You know, take the time, you know, you have to have that like intellectual structure around it. Like your prefrontal cortex has to be able to interrupt your reptilian brain when it's doing its hormonal teenager thing. And if you remember what it was like being a teenager, just think that there's still little teenagers inside of you. Part of me has always wanted to go back to like those years with the wisdom of now. But then imagine like hanging out with a bunch of 15-year-olds where you're the only one who knows what the fuck is going on. Excuse me. You'd have no friends. All your friends would be like 40 years old. It'd be weird. Anyway, so the first thing to do is look, study, 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 and more studies. I'm sorry. I can't help you study. I teach, but I can't help you study. I can't help you take notes. I can't help you do your 6 times a day book, and I can't interrupt your life as it's happening. But if you have good enough seeds, sometimes you will hear your teacher's voice in your head when you're about to do something. That's my favorite moment. They just pop in your head, just sort of like, see, like a little technology here, bottom right of the screen. Ta-da. Like, they're like, are you sure? Someday I'll tell you my funniest story around that, but it's a little bit too risque for this crowd. All right, second thing. Oh, look, a wild horse. You know, you already know the vows, right? But you're just careless and lazy and forgetful, or you're right. You know them, but you're just like, I don't, whatever, right? So the second thing to do is to be mindful and catch yourself, right? And bring yourself back, just like this, right? Bring yourself back, like have that rider inside of you, have the cowboy or cowgirl or cow them riding around, and then bring yourself back, capture them, have your lasso ready, and be like, yes, that's what I really want to do. But I know that that's going to cause some problems in the future. And then it's like, uh, 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 right? And then you lasso it and bring it back. Like, get yourself back on board. Third thing. This is the picture of the Colorado River from the top of the canyon, top of the Grand Canyon. What the heck am I talking about here? You know your vows, but then you have a negative emotion. You have I call it like an attack of bad thoughts, and then you break it because you can't help yourself. You literally are like, I know the vows, but I'm just overwhelmed with whatever emotion or whatever, whatever's happening, because that's what happens. Your negative emotions come out. They're just automatic. You don't have control. I'm sorry, in the moment. Right. And so it feels impossible. So what do? You stand up at the top of the canyon and be like, everything's fine. Don't worry. I just got angry. Or you go down to the bottom of the canyon. You go rock bottom. That's what we say in English. It's go rock bottom. Go down to the bottom and find your worst affliction. Find the worst bad thought, the worst thing that you do, whether it's pride or anger or jealousy. There's 6 top 10 worst mental afflictions. Ignorance being one of them. Maybe if you attack that, that will be the best one. But find your worst and then work on that one. Because if you work on that one, you're kind of working on all of them. Which one is it for you? Do you get insanely jealous? Do you have wrong pride? Right? Do you get angry? What is your thing? Identify the worst one and work on it. Right? Go rock bottom. Don't go halfway down the canyon. That's stupid. If you have the capacity, just go to the bottom. Like one of my best friends, his name was Brian Edwards in college. He was like, look, if you're having a bad day, just make it the worst it can be. Get rid of all the emotion immediately. I broke up with my partner at the time, right? Or they broke up with me. I don't know. I don't remember the story. So long ago, I barely remember it. And I was sad and crying and feeling like shit, and life was terrible. It would never be the same. Blah, 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 blah. All the things that we tell ourselves when we break up, right? Because it's like a death. It's a mini death. And then he was like, let's hang out. I'm like, oh, that's good. I'll hang out with my friend. We hang out with my friend. And then we start playing chess. Gets out the chessboard. I have a chessboard right over there. cares? Get out the chessboard, start playing chess. And then like as we're going, he puts on some playlist, right? And like the music is just getting more and more depressing. It's getting sadder and sadder and like heavier and heavier. And I'm like trying to play this chess game and I'm trying to beat my friend, right? And he's better at chess than I am anyway. And I just was like all the emotions started coming out and I was just like and I was like all of a sudden I realized what he was doing and I was like you jerk. And he just starts laughing, you know. And it was a great kindness, right? And he said it's better to hit rock bottom as fast as possible and then climb out. Because if you fall down the mountain and you try to grab on as you're falling and then pause, you still haven't felt the entire emotion. You haven't done the work. Just do it. Like, even if it takes you a week, a month, a year, like grief is awful for people and it can last for a long, long time. But, go to the bottom. Just do it with support. Don't just fall down by yourself. Okay. Like, I'm not advocating doing that by yourself, but, get rock bottom, go with your friends, go play chess. You know, this is just my example, right? Do it. And then, so in this case, find your worst emotion. Just go to the bottom, excavate. Don't work on your little tiny ones. Who gives a shit about your tiny ones if you still get jealous? If you're still getting angry, if you're still prideful, like just attack that stuff because all those other ones are based on it anyway. So just go to the bottom of the river, go to the bottom of the canyon. Like, it's nice to look at the Grand Canyon from the top, right? But how cool is it when you're at the bottom? It is extraordinary down there. These are not my pictures, by the way. But it's extraordinary to be down there, right? It's extraordinarily courageous to go down to the bottom of your soul and look at the things that you never wanted to look at in the first place. The courage that it takes to do that. Not many people want to do that. Not many people want to do it. And then they start doing it, and then it gets uncomfortable and they stop. They just want the comfortable life. Right? But part of this process is to unravel who you are and who you think you are and the patterns that you have. We all have them. And then you got to fight them. Then you have to stand up to them and be like, no, I'm not going to be jealous today. I'm going to celebrate the things that other people have. My Lama gave me an impossible project the other day, like stupid amounts of money, like insane. He's like, I want you to get that amount of money. And I'm like, haha, you're joking, right? like figuratively. And he's like, no. And I've been meditating on it for quite a while. And I was like, well, what's blocking me from, stupid amounts of money? And then by stupid, I mean a lot, and the fact that I even call it stupid means that there's a problem. Get it? You see, so part of my challenge is jealousy. I get jealous when other people have a lot of money. I do. I get seriously jealous. But I seem to be surrounded. I've always been surrounded by almost. Like, I'm comfortable. Like, I want to make it clear. I'm very comfortable. Like, I've gotten very comfortable in life and I have what I need. But it's been very like, I've been surrounded my entire life, but it was always like almost, and I can see it everywhere I go. I can see it, but it's not in my bank account. It's in other people's bank accounts. I'm surrounded by it, but it's not in me, right? And it's not, money's samsaric. Don't worry. You can't take it with you. It's not a big deal. But my Lama is teaching me about my own jealousy and my own perceived limitations, right? So now I'm like diving down to the bottom. I'm not going to spend time like, on light stuff anymore. Let's just go and navigate it. Like, okay, well, what's the issue? And then the other issue is the way that I like the mentality I had, which I started this class with about why we're making a shift in our priority in these last 3 ACI courses. Because it's not my class, it's not my students, it's not my teachings, right? My teacher, another my, right? The person who has given me the most is offering something incredibly extraordinary, right? And that incredible, extraordinary presentation of it's a essentially a lived lam rim of Diamond Way from a realized being. Why would I think that I could do anything better? Right? It was subtle. It wasn't like I'm making a big mountain of it, but that's what seeds do. You have subtle seeds, and then subtle seeds become larger seeds, and then they grow. And then they get larger and larger and larger and larger. And so what are we going to do? Like, I need to rip out that subtle seed, go down to the bottom, pull it out, right? And so what I if you so here's what I wanted to say about this. So if you have this inkling to study Diamond Way with yours truly, with me, the way we're going to do it is we're going to start with Geshe Michael. All right. And so what we've been preparing at Five Houses for the last year and a half has been a preparation course for the live transmission that's going to happen in October. Right. And so the way that I'm going to teach is through him to start, because that's the way we're going to do it. And how do you decide what to do with your teacher? You do what your teacher does. You see, like people ask me this question, well, should I study Yamantika, or should I study like Tara, or should I study Vajrayogini, or should I study Maitreya? Study what your teacher studies. What your teacher offers you is what you study. You don't have to make a decision. Your decision is made based on the seeds that are made by the way you treated other people in the past, which is then reveals the teacher that you have in front of you. So that's what we're going to do. And I encourage every single person, if I'm your teacher or anyone else is your teacher, like that's what we're going to do. We're going to start with Geshe Michael, And so we've been doing this preparation for six courses, 5 courses. The 6th one is coming up in July. And lucky for you, if you haven't attended all of them, we're going to offer a catch-up course during the event. We're also offering catch-up courses all the time. Venerable Cotting is teaching. I'm teaching in June in Japan. There's plenty of opportunities to catch up. And then in October, we will have a live transmission around the world with Geshe Michael. How we'll do it, I'm going to tell you on Friday. Please put up the banner when you're ready. Thank you. So on Friday, we're going to be announcing how this whole thing is going to work. What is it going to look like? What are you going to need to do? How are we going to do this worldwide when we only have 130 spaces at Dragon's Head? There's always a Pung Sumba. There's always a way. And it's beautiful. And each and every one of you, whether you're able to come to the United States or not, will be receiving the exact same transmission. And we're going to talk about how on Friday. So please come on Friday. Share this with your friends and family, anyone who is interested. And so that's going to be that's the path we're going to take for now. Right. And then I'll get further instruction from my teacher on how to move forward with you, you know. And I think the most powerful thing here is everybody needs instruction, private advices from the teachers, a teacher, and someone who can really guide them. And that's where your heart teacher really comes in. Like, how do you navigate the day in and day out of total transformation? You can take it off the screen now, Marina. Thank you. It's just an hour, Shanti. It's just going to be an hour. But how do you navigate that transformation, right? And the thing that will keep those vows is when you see successes. The more success that you have, the more you will keep them because you'll start seeing what they do for you. All right. And so the beauty that I see in the way that my teacher is doing it, which I don't think is a coincidence. It is not a coincidence. It is not a coincidence. It is not a coincidence that we are having this moment happen now. We are finishing the 18 courses, right? You thought you were going to get the traditional 18 courses. Maybe you will, maybe you won't. But if your teacher is teaching it to you in the way that if your teacher is teaching you, you're getting it. Don't be attached to the content or the form. Right? And that comes from deep wisdom as well. And this is the path we're going to take. And I'm committing to help as best as I can. Because I've seen how it's helped me and I see how it helps so many other people. So I want to do one more thing. I want to look it up right now. Hold on just one second. I just had an idea. Gotta find it on my computer. Hold on just one moment. I know where it is. To end today's class, for those of you that have Bodhisattva vows, we're going to renew our vows right now. For those of you that don't, you can take them right now. We're going to do this short ceremony. And you can take them in two ways. You can take them as a wish, as a way to just commit that you would want to take the vows. You can take them completely if you want to do that right now. You can renew them, or you can just hang out and watch 162 people take vows and just celebrate. There's no pressure. There's no pressure right now. Not offering any, there's never any pressure in any of this. But I just thought it'd be really cool if we renewed our vows right now. And I just thought of it 2 seconds ago. So if you're ever in an emergency, there's a short ceremony. Okay. So that's what we're going to do right now. So everyone take a moment. Whether you're, you're just like, oh shit, I want to take them now for the first time, or I'm just going to watch and be present, or I'm going to renew the vows I already have. I think it's very, very powerful just to be present. Okay. Let me actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share the screen so that the interpreters can see it and not have to just rely upon thinking about what I'm saying. Hold on just a second. Let's just do it this way. All right, interpreters. All right, here we go. We're going to do it the short, short way. The short, short way is we're supposed to repeat this part 3 times, but we're running out of time. So we're going to do it once. Okay. Lamas, victors, and their sons and daughters, I ask you to hear me. Those in the past who have gone to bliss first gained the wish for Buddhahood, and then they traveled and gradually reached, one by one, the things that a bodhisattva must learn. To help all living beings, I swear I will do the same. I will gain the wish for Buddhahood, and I will learn one by one 64 things, the things that a bodhisattva must learn. And I changed my mind. We're going to do it 3 times. I'm sorry. Not sorry. Lamas, victors, and their daughters and sons, I ask you to hear me. Those in the past who have gone to bliss first gained the wish for Buddhahood, and then they traveled and gradually reached, one by one, the things that a bodhisattva must learn. To help all living beings, I swear I will do the same. I will gain the wish for Buddhahood, and I will learn one by one the things that a bodhisattva must learn. Third time. Lamas, victors, and their daughters and sons, I ask you to hear me. Those in the past who have gone to bliss first gained the wish for Buddhahood, and then they traveled and gradually reached, one by one, the things that a bodhisattva must learn. To help all living beings, I swear I'll do the same. And I will gain the wish for Buddhahood. And I will learn one by one the things that a bodhisattva must learn. Now, finally, my life has some meaning. Born as a human, today I have joined the family of the Buddhas. I am a daughter, I am a son of the Buddhas. And now, no matter what, I will undertake those things that fit the family I found. And I shall never disgrace this pure and noble family. Yay. All right. Welcome. Thank you all for joining today. Again, it's such a pleasure to have all of you here. Over the next month, you will have the reviews of this entire course. I didn't cover all the material in ACI 17 as per usual, so that's part of the study group leaders. Thank you all for being part of that and making it possible and becoming great teachers yourself. And, so please keep working hard. We're almost halfway through. We're over halfway through. We covered the halfway mark. Okay. Well, not technically. I guess technically the next class is halfway. I don't know. 7.5. We've finished 7 courses. I don't know. Whatever. The point is we're almost there. Let's just call it that. We're almost there. Really, and I don't think many of us realize how close we really are. We really are. I think it's just a few powerful but very short obstacles to overcome. They say in the beginning, like the first 90% is really difficult. It's very easy, actually. Like once you get started, getting over the not getting started is a lot of work. But getting started, you can make a ton of progress really quickly. But the last 10% or so is much more is the hardest work, right? And I believe most of you are at that last 10%. You just don't realize it, and you are doing that hard work. We wouldn't be here if you weren't doing it. So I'd keep it up, keep going. Please do come on Friday, because I think that's the next big step in our teachings. Learning directly as a live transmission from Geshe Michael. And how he's going to be reflecting on his life, his experience, his studies, his realizations of the Diamond Way practice. And I think that's the most beautiful place for us to start. And I think it's a beautiful teaching on teachers as well in lineage. So thank you all for coming. Once again, thank you, Anastasia Mansarowa, for organizing this beast of a class. And thank you, Marina. Thank you, all the tech team. Thank you, everyone, for making it possible, and all the interpreters that are gaining a tremendous amount of incredible good deeds just by making it possible. Years and years of it. Think about people in 500 years listening to this class as you had interpreted it. You're getting those seeds then, and continue. So again, thank you very much. We will see you next month for ACI review of ACI 8. And then please turn on your microphones and say goodbye to each other. And hopefully we'll see you on Friday.
Thank you.
До побачення.
Thank you, everybody.
Gracias.
Yeah, for sharing. Thank you for loving the world.
Gracias a
Thank you.
todos,
Day.
gracias.
Cheer to be on the path with you.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Please stay with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Дуже вдячна.
Please stay, please stay.
We need to
Please stay with us.
study and study.
Дякую.
Review these.
Благодарю.
Дякую, вчителю.
Thank you, teacher.
Залишайся з нами. Дякую за вчення. Thank you, dear teacher.
No. Good to see everybody.
Gracias, team.
Bye, everybody.
It's good. It's great.
Happy
See you
Sunday.
Friday.
Have a good night.
Ačiū.
Good day.